The July heat wrapped itself around Maple Ridge, like a heavy blanket. Ellen Walcott stood in her kitchen, a rag in one hand and a weary sigh in the other. The air conditioning had gone out again. The ancient unit wheezed once around noon and then gave up for good. She dabbed her forehead with the sleeve of her blouse and kept wiping down the counters anyway. She wasn't expecting perfection, just something that looked like home. Her modest house, nestled near the Blue Ridge foothills, had been standing since before she and Daniel bought it in 1982. It had creaky floors, sagging windowsills, and walls thick with memory. Too many memories. Really. She had raised her daughter Lauren here. Watched Daniel grow old. Then watched him fade. And now, she was the only one left who remembered how it all used to be. The clock on the wall ticked past 2:15. Lauren was due at 3. Bringing the kids for their weekend, visit Chloe, bright-eyed and 10. And Ethan, a moody 14-year-old who spoke more to his phone than to people these days. Ellen knew the drill stocked the fridge with almond milk. Not regular. Make sure the chicken isn't too salty. Don't say anything outdated. She checked the fridge again twice. Eggs. Check. Strawberries. Check. A whole roast chicken in the oven, already seasoned with lemon and rosemary. Ellen smiled to herself. Chloe would love that. Lauren would complain. That was just the rhythm of their visits now. At exactly 3:00, the doorbell rang. Ellen shuffled to the door, straightening her shirt as she went. She opened it just as Chloe came barreling in with a hug that nearly knocked her over. Grandma the girl chirped, smelling like bubblegum and sunscreen. Hey there. Sunshine, Ellen whispered, hugging her back. Ethan followed, barely mumbling a hey before retreating into his phone. Lauren came last, juggling a tote bag and 2 grocery sacks. God. Is the AC out again? It's like an oven in here. Ellen gave her a smile instead of a lecture. Good to see you. 2. Sweetheart. Dinner's almost ready. Hopefully not fried. Ethan's already filling out. The boy didn't respond. His face sank a little lower behind his phone. At the table, Ellen did what she always did, asked about school. Complimented Chloe's new hair clips. Made space for Lauren to talk about her job. The conversation was one-sided. Lauren complained about her coworkers. The kids barely spoke. Ellen served, smiled, swallowed her loneliness with every bite of roasted chicken. When dinner ended, Ethan stood up, eager to disappear into the guest room. His weekend lair. Help Grandma clear the table first, Lauren said sharply. Ethan froze. It's fine, Ellen said, voice soft. I've got it. See, that's why he doesn't lift a finger. Lauren snapped. You baby him. I'm not lazy, Ethan mumbled, already collecting plates. Once the table was cleared and the kids vanished to their screens, Lauren stayed seated, her tea untouched. She folded her arms. Mom, we need to talk. Ellen froze. Those words rarely meant anything good. Lauren leaned in slightly. You can't keep living like this. The house is too big. You're forgetting things. The stove. The lights. It's time we think about your future. Ellen blinked. My future. There's a place in Asheville. It's clean. Private. Medical care. Full-time staff. You'd be safe there. Ellen felt the words settle over her like dust on old furniture. A nursing home, she whispered. Not now. Lauren rushed to say, but soon. You're altmış sekiz. Mom? And I've got the kids. Work. I can't be worrying about you all the time. Ellen looked at her daughter. Really looked. And for the first time in years, she saw not a little girl needing protection, but a woman who saw her mother as a burden. And just like that, the roast chicken turned cold in her stomach. That night, the house was too quiet. After the kids had gone to bed, Ellen sat alone in the kitchen. The hum of the refrigerator, the only sound filling the air. Her cup of tea had gone cold hours ago. But she held it anyway, both hands wrapped around it like it might give her something back. She couldn't sleep. Not after what Lauren had said. A nursing home. Not now. Of course. Not today. But we need to start planning. Ellen Hutt smiled. Nodded. Swallowed her reaction like a pill. But inside, something had cracked. She thought back to the first time Lauren had called her mommy. Back when scraped knees and peanut butter sandwiches were all that mattered. She remembered staying up through the night when Lauren had the flu. The divorce. The years Ellen had practically raised Ethan and Chloe while Lauren rebuilt her life. And now, a burden. That was the word Lauren hadn't said, but Ellen had heard it anyway. The next morning, as sunlight filtered through the kitchen window, Ellen was still awake. Still in her robe. She moved slowly. Making toast. No one asked for. Pouring juice into glasses no one would drink. At 9:30, the doorbell rang. She opened it to find Judy Barnes standing there. Bright as ever in a hot pink blouse and oversized sunglasses. Her silver hair was swept up like she was going to a garden party. Not visiting a widow on a Wednesday morning. Sunshine. Judy beamed. Why do you look like someone stole your dog? Ellen managed a weak smile. Come in. Want some coffee, always. Judy said. Stepping inside and immediately spotting the signs. The untouched breakfast. The bags under Ellen's eyes. The air thick with something unspoken. 5 minutes later, they sat on the back porch. Coffee in hand. Watching the wind stir the tall grass beyond the fence. Ellen finally exhaled. Lauren wants me to start looking at retirement homes, she said quietly. Judy raised an eyebrow. Retirement homes? Huh. She thinks you've gone soft. She says, I'm forgetful. That the house is too much for me. That she's worried. Worried. Judy repeated with a scoff. Or looking for a way to unburden herself, Ellen said nothing. She didn't want to believe that. Look. Judy continued. I've known you since Daniel was still climbing ladders at the firehouse. You're not senile. You're not helpless. You're tired because this house holds 40 years of everyone else's life, but not yours. Ellen stared at her coffee. Letting Judy's words settle? You ever think about selling? Judy asked suddenly. Ellen blinked. Selling? Yeah. The market's good. Place like this. Backyard. Porch. 3 bedrooms. You could make a killing. Move into town. Get an apartment. Start fresh. Hell. You could take up painting. Or dancing. Or photography. Ellen said softly. Surprising herself. Judy paused. Photography, I used to love it. Daniel bought me a camera for our wedding. I never really used it. Life got in the way. Judy leaned back. A slow smile forming. Well, honey. Maybe life just stepped out of the way. Ellen looked out across the yard. At the swing where Chloe once played. At the shed where Daniel used to keep his tools. Everything here had a memory, but none of them were hers alone. Later that afternoon, as Lauren packed up the kids to head home, Ellen stood by the doorway and waved. Chloe blew a kiss. Ethan gave a casual salute. Lauren barely made eye contact. We'll call you later. Okay, sure. Ellen said, still smiling. Still quiet. But something inside her had shifted, and as the car pulled away down the gravel road, Ellen looked back at her house. Not with sadness, but with a question. What if I let go? What if I lived for me? Just once. Ellen didn't sleep much the night after Judy's visit. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling fan, spinning slowly above her. It wasn't just the heat or the creaks of the old house that kept her awake. It was a sentence Judy had tossed out with the ease of casual conversation. Maybe life just stepped out of the way. By morning, the sentence had rooted itself in her chest like a seed cracking open. Ellen stood at the kitchen sink, staring out the window as sunlight lit up the hydrangeas Daniel had planted years ago. A memory bloomed her husband holding a garden hose, shirtless, laughing as Lauren ran through the spray barefoot. That version of life felt like it belonged to someone else. She wiped her hands on a towel, picked up the phone, and dialed. Hi. Natalie, it's Ellen Walcott. You sold the Baxter place across the street last spring. Right. I think I'm ready to talk about putting my home on the market. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Well, Mrs. Walcott, said the bright, professional voice. I'd love to help you make that happen. The next afternoon, Natalie Evans arrived with a tablet in hand and shoes too clean for this much gravel. She walked through the house with the same curiosity one might have in a time capsule. She asked polite questions, took photos, scribbled notes, and finally sat down at the kitchen table. You've taken great care of the place, she said. 3 bedrooms, big yard, detached garage. It's exactly what young families are looking for around here. I think we can list it around $445. Ling. Ellen blinked. That much, Natalie smiled. It's a seller's market, especially in a town like Maple Ridge. When Natalie left, Ellen sat alone at the table, a listing packet in front of her and her hands trembling just slightly. She got up and wandered the house, room by room. Every corner whispered a story. The chipped banister Daniel never got around to fixing. The scuff marks on the hallway wall from when Lauren insisted on roller skating indoors. The old photo frames lined on the mantel, some crooked, some faded. That night, she dug through a drawer in the garage and found a dusty file folder labeled Important. Inside, birth certificates, the deed to the house, Daniel's will, and an envelope with her name on it. It was Daniel's handwriting. She opened it carefully. The paper was yellowed, but the ink hadn't faded. My dearest Ellen, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And I know you're probably taking care of everyone else. Just like always. But I need you to hear this. You don't owe your life to anyone. You gave everything to me. To Lauren. To this house. But don't forget what you wanted. You used to love taking pictures. You used to dream about traveling. So go. Live. Take the camera. Find your light. Love you always. Daniel. She read it twice, then pressed it to her chest. The next morning, she woke with a clarity she hadn't felt in years. By noon, she had called Natalie back. Let's list it, she said. And by evening, she was online, researching apartments in Asheville closer to the city, closer to classes, to galleries, to life. She even searched photography classes near me. The first link, Light and Story Studio Beginners, welcome. Ellen clicked and smiled. She didn't know where this road would lead. But for the first time in a long time, it would be her road. The apartment was smaller than she imagined, but somehow, It felt just right. A fourth-floor unit in downtown Asheville, with tall windows and a narrow balcony that overlooked Pack Square Park. The first morning Ellen moved in. She sat by the window with her coffee and watched joggers pass beneath blooming crepe myrtles. People laughed, walked dogs, read books in the shade. Life was happening just outside her window. And for once, she felt part of it. The move had been chaotic. Boxes stacked like towers. Photos wrapped in towels. Her favorite mugs rattling nervously in a shoebox. But Judy helped. So did the building's maintenance man, Luis, who offered to carry up her heavy pots and didn't charge her a dime. Lauren hadn't called. And Ellen didn't call her either. Not out of spite, but because. For the first time, Ellen wasn't moving for someone else. This move was hers. Her beginning. That same week. She walked, yes, walked to Light and Story Studio on Chestnut Street. It was a refurbished brick building with ivy crawling up its side and a red door that looked like it belonged in a movie. Inside smelled like old wood, fresh coffee, and something creative, like a cross between ink and possibility. "Hi," she said at the front desk. "I'm Ellen Walcott. I signed up for the beginner's class. You're right on time." The receptionist smiled. "Room B. Down the hall." She opened the door to find a group of 10 people seated in a semicircle. All ages. All backgrounds. Some held DSLRs. Some had notebooks. One woman had a vintage Polaroid. Ellen took a seat near the middle. Moments later, the instructor entered short, energetic, with camera straps across her chest like a bandolier. She introduced herself as Heather Oren, former photojournalist, now part-time teacher, part-time nature photographer. "We're not here to just learn how to click a button," Heather began, pacing. "We're here to learn how to see light, lines, texture, story. Photography is about paying attention." Ellen's hand instinctively went to the small notebook in her purse. Next to her, a tall man with silver hair leaned over and whispered, "Don't worry. She only bites when we forget to take our lens caps off." Ellen smiled. "Ellen," she whispered. "Tom," he said, extending a hand. Glad to have another rookie on the team. After introductions, the class discussed the basics exposure. Shutter speed. The difference between ISO and aperture. Ellen's head spun. But in the best way. She wasn't lost, she was learning. Her brain, long, unused to absorbing anything beyond grocery lists and doctor's appointments, lit up like a switchboard. When class ended, Tom turned to her. "Want to grab a coffee across the street? Some of us usually hang out a bit after." Ellen hesitated. She hadn't done that in years, spontaneously said yes to something without checking if someone else needed her. But then she remembered Daniel's letter. "Find your light." "I'd love to," she said. "At the cafe." She sat with Tom and 2 other classmates, Rosa, a retired librarian, and Mia, a graphic designer on sabbatical. They talked about lenses and old road trips, about cities they wanted to visit, and which light was best for photographing fog. Ellen didn't say much at first, but she laughed and listened, and for the first time in what felt like forever, she felt like more than a mother, more than a widow, more than someone else had to plan around. She was a person again. A beginner. Yes, but a joyful one. Ellen was adjusting the straps on her new camera bag when her phone lit up. 15 missed calls. All from Lauren. 3 voicemails waited. The first one played in her daughter's clipped, Alarmed voice. Mom, is it true you sold the house? Daisy just called and said someone moved into 147 Willow Bend. Please call me back. The second message came an hour later. Mom? I went to the house. There's a family living there. They said they bought it a week ago. What's going on? Where are you? The third was softer. More afraid. Please. Mom? I'm really worried. If you don't call me in the next hour, I'm calling the police. Ellen exhaled and sat down at the small dining table in her apartment. She dialed. Lauren answered on the first ring. Where the hell are you? Good morning to you too. Ellen replied, calm but tired. I'm in Asheville. I moved last week. You what? You sold the house without telling me. I didn't think I needed your permission. Ellen said gently, it was my house. Lauren, that house was our family home. Ellen paused. It was, and it holds beautiful memories. But it's no longer where I belong. You didn't even talk to me. You didn't ask. I wasn't asking. Ellen said firmly. For once, I made a decision for myself. There was a long silence on the line. Lauren's voice returned. Quieter this time. Was this because of what I said about the nursing home? Ellen looked out the window. The sun had just begun to pour over the park. Not just that, she said. But yes, that was the push. I didn't mean it like that. Lauren said quickly. I was just stressed. Scared. Trying to think ahead. I know, Ellen replied. But what you said, it made me see things clearly. You weren't just planning for me. You were planning without me. Lauren didn't answer. But then she spoke again, slower. Hesitant. Okay. Since we're being honest, I need to tell you something. I wasn't just worried about you. I was counting on that house. Ellen blinked. What do you mean I'm drowning? Mom, I didn't want to tell you, but I'm behind on the mortgage. The credit cards. The student loans. I thought maybe someday I'd move in. Or sell it and start over. I thought if I just held out long enough, you'd leave it to me. Ellen's heart ached. Not out of anger, but out of a deep, aching sadness. Were you planning to take care of me out of love? She asked quietly. Or out of convenience? Lauren didn't answer at first. When she finally spoke, her voice cracked. I don't know. Maybe both. Ellen closed her eyes. I understand. But the truth is, I needed to do this. For me. A pause. Then Lauren asked, almost childlike, are you okay? I'm better than I've been in years. Ellen said honestly, I've got a small apartment, a camera, a class I love, people who see me as something more than a checklist. Another pause. Can I see it? Lauren asked. The apartment. Your new life. Ellen smiled. Even though Lauren couldn't see it. I'd like that. That night, Ellen sat on the balcony with a cup of mint tea. Cars rolled through the city below. Someone played guitar on a nearby stoop. She pulled the camera into her lap and turned it on. She wasn't erasing the past. She was finally choosing the present. Lauren arrived that Saturday right on time. Ellen had spent the whole morning tidying her apartment, arranging wildflowers in a mason jar, and placing her favorite photographs on the side table like conversation starters. The place smelled faintly of lemon and vanilla, comforting. Clean. Hers. When the doorbell rang, Ellen took a deep breath before opening it. Lauren stood there, dressed in a crisp blouse, Chloe bouncing behind her, and Ethan looking up briefly from his phone to nod. Mom, Lauren said, a little stiff. Come in. Ellen smiled. Welcome to my new home. They stepped inside. And Lauren took it all in the modest kitchen. The tidy living room. The sliding door leading to the balcony. It was small. Undeniably. But warm. It's cozy. Lauren offered. Chloe rushed over to the photos on the wall. Grandma, did you take these? I did. Ellen beamed. That one's from a photo walk in Pisgah. Want to see my camera later? Chloe's eyes lit up. Yes. Please. Ethan wandered toward the window, glancing at the park below. Pretty nice view. He mumbled. Ellen guided them all to the table where lunch was ready. Roast chicken, fresh salad, and homemade cornbread. Lauren raised an eyebrow. Mom, this looks amazing. How did you even have my tricks? Ella winked. During lunch, the mood lightened. Chloe shared a story about school. Ethan asked about different camera lenses. Even Lauren seemed relaxed for a while until the dishes were cleared and the kids stepped out onto the balcony. Then the air shifted. Lauren sat across from her mother at the small table, twisting her napkin. I want to thank you. She began. Ellen tilted her hill. For what? For agreeing to let me visit. For listening the other night. You're my daughter. Lauren! I'll always listen. Lauren looked down. I also came to ask something else. Ellen waited. I need help. Lauren said quietly. I'm behind on everything. Mortgage. Credit cards. The car. I kept thinking I could handle it. But I can't. I don't want to lose the apartment. Mom, the kids need stability. Ellen felt a wave of emotions rise. Concern. Protectiveness. And yes, an old familiar ache of being needed for what she could give. Not always for who she was. Lauren, she said gently. I'm willing to help. But not in the way you might think. Lauren looked up. Surprised. What do you mean I won't give you money outright? Ellen said. But I'll lend it to you on paper. With a plan. And conditions. Lauren blinked. Conditions, yes. We'll draw up a payment schedule. We'll meet with a financial advisor. You'll stick to a monthly budget. And we'll open college funds for Chloe and Ethan, both of us contributing. Lauren sat back. Shocked. Speechless. I'm not doing this to punish you. Ellen continued. I'm doing it because I want you to learn what I had to learn, how to stand on your own. How to build something without sacrificing yourself for everyone else. Tears welled in Lauren's eyes. I don't deserve this. That may be true, Ellen said softly. But I'm offering it anyway. Lauren reached across the table. For once, not as a daughter demanding or judging, but simply as a woman grasping for solid ground. Thank you, she whispered. I'll do better. I promise. Ellen squeezed her hand. Good. Because this time, we're both starting over with clarity. And boundaries. Out on the balcony. Chloe laughed, as Ethan showed her how to take pictures with Ellen's camera. For a moment, everything felt still and right. Not perfect, but honest. And that was enough. Fall had begun to touch Asheville with gold and rust. The trees in Pack Square Park shifted color daily, as if the city were turning its pages in slow, deliberate poetry. Ellen stood in the library gallery, heart pounding beneath her sea-green dress. Her photos hung in neat rows across white walls. The light bouncing off the frames made everything look sharper, more vivid, more real. A sign by the entrance read, "Through my lens, the photography of Ellen Walcott." She still couldn't believe it. Tom was the first to arrive. carrying a box of sparkling cider and a grin that said "told you so." Judy came next with half the book club trailing behind her like well-dressed ducklings, all buzzing with questions. Rosa, Mia, and others from class followed. And soon the room filled with laughter, clinks of glasses, and stories drifting from corner to corner. Ellen stood back and watched Chloe run up to one of the photos, a morning shot of mist rising over a mountain lake. "You took this one." "Grandma, I did." Ellen smiled. "It feels like a dream." Chloe whispered. It was. Ethan, unusually chatty, had spent most of the afternoon helping hang the prints, measuring each frame like a pro. Now he stood proudly near the display, explaining the layout to anyone who would listen. Lauren moved carefully through the gallery, eyes scanning each photo. Her voice was softer tonight. Less business, more wonder. "Mom, these are beautiful. I never knew you had this in you." "I think," Ellen said gently. "Neither did I." Later that evening, Tom raised a plastic cup and cleared his throat. "If I may," he said, "I'd like to propose a toast to Ellen Walcott, who reminded us that it's never too late to begin again. She found light not just through a lens, but through courage. Cheers." Everyone raised their glasses. Ellen smiled, eyes misting over. But the moment that stayed with her most came right after. Ethan stepped into the center of the room, fidgeting a little, then straightened his shoulders. "I want to say something," he said. The room hushed. "My grandma's the coolest person I know," he began, voice cracking slightly. "Not because she makes great pie, which she does, but because she didn't let anyone else tell her when her story was over. She started a new one. And it's awesome." Laughter. Applause. A few tears. Ellen covered her mouth, overwhelmed. She hadn't planned on crying tonight, but maybe tears were part of transformation too. That weekend, Lauren lingered after everyone had left. They shared coffee on the balcony, wrapped in light jackets as the wind picked up. "I was wrong," Lauren said softly. "About everything." Ellen shook her head. "Not everything. You were scared. So was I. But we made it through." "I'm proud of you," Lauren whispered. "And I think I finally get it. You weren't leaving us. You were choosing yourself. I just wasn't ready to see that." Ellen reached for her daughter's hand. "The beautiful thing is we both still get to grow. Even now." Below them, the city shimmered with Saturday lights. Cars hummed. Music played somewhere far off. Life continued. Ellen looked at her camera on the table beside her. Tomorrow, she had another photo walk planned. The mountains were calling again. She smiled. She wasn't starting over anymore. She was simply continuing with open eyes, steady hands, and a heart finally full of her own light.